forgiveness can be medicinal. It can be medicine for your body, your mind, and your soul. It can be so powerful. It can be so freeing. It can change your life for the better. It can bring ease into your life, freedom, healing. Okay. I need to touch on this because I feel like forgiveness can trigger so many people, rightfully so, right? So many people have experienced awful things in this life that they didn't deserve. And I know that when I talk about forgiveness, it can be triggering to people because they say, well, you don't know what so-and-so did to me, so I'm never going to forgive them. And I'm not here to tell anyone to forgive anyone or to do it at a certain time or to do it at all. But I do have to share what I've experienced, what I've heard other people experience, in case you're on the fence, in case you're curious about this, in case you need just like the support to say, yeah, forgiveness is powerful, life-changing, healing medicine. It is allowed. You're allowed to forgive people, even those who you swear you're not allowed to forgive. And it can change your life for the better, okay? That's what I'm going to talk about for a few minutes. So let's get into it. The first time I heard of people forgiving and using it as healing was in 2019. I was on the web perusing YouTube. Shout out to YouTube. Love YouTube. And I came to this channel called Chris Beat Cancer. And I'll link it below. And Chris, the guy whose channel it is, was interviewing people who had healed their body of disease, cancers, breast, pancreatic, prostate, skin, etc. And all these people he was interviewing were sharing with him how they healed naturally, how they healed through lifestyle instead of through pharmaceuticals, how they healed through their choices rather than through a doctor. Fascinating. I encourage you to listen, not saying you should do what they did, but when I was listening, it opened up my mind to the possibilities. And I was just taking notes, not to mimic what they did, but to learn. And there were a lot of similarities between all of these stories, though each story was unique. And some of the similarities were people started exercising, quitting toxic jobs or leaving toxic marriages, changing how they ate, chewing their food. That was interesting. Lots of people mentioning chewing their food fully. A lot of us eat too fast, not allowing our bodies to, access the nutrition in the food. But anyway, another thing that all of these people had in common that stuck out to me was that part of their healing disease in their body, was forgiveness. They all mentioned forgiveness as an essential aspect of healing. And they all mentioned that in one way or another, they were holding on to bitterness and resentment in their bodies. Some of them for 50 years, 40 years, 10 years. That's a long time. But it's also very relatable. I don't know about you, but I have held a grudge or held on to pain from something traumatic for many, many, many years. So my ears perked up when they were talking about forgiveness as part of their healing of disease. You don't hear about that too often. I don't hear that in the doctor's office. Have you forgiven everyone as I give you your pills or your IVs? Have you forgiven everyone in your life? I hadn't heard that. And I was so intrigued and a little antenna went up because I knew I needed to do something similar. I knew it. When you know, it's like I didn't need the scientific evidence to tell me why the forgiveness would be important for my life and my health. I just knew I needed to do it. At the time, what led me on the search to find this channel was I was experiencing symptoms of my own, none of which had ever received a diagnosis or a name from a medical practitioner, but I was in pain. I was very uncomfortable. I was experiencing certain symptoms in my abdomen, my chest, my belly, my side, my neck. And I started searching, and actually what started that search was someone recommending me the book When the Body Says No by Dr. Gabor Mate. That was the first step of the journey. which I highly recommend. I won't go into here, but it changed my whole understanding. It opened the door to understand how these diseases that we're taught to be so afraid of, like cancer or MS, how they can begin, or factors that can contribute to their development. Hugely stress of many kinds. So I started with that book, and then I started searching online and came across Chris Beats Cancer, and I was like, whoa, what is possible? All the things that are possible that we never learned. And the forgiveness thing stuck out to me because I knew I needed to do it. Maybe you know too. And I knew who I needed to forgive. And it was someone and some people who a lot of people would say, don't forgive them. That was atrocious. That was a vile act. You don't forgive people like that. And that's very common. And that's part of the reason I want to bring up forgiveness in this video, because so often we almost hear people celebrating a lack of forgiveness. They don't deserve to be forgiven. They don't deserve to be forgiven. They don't deserve to be forgiven because what they did was so bad. They deserve to suffer. Well, the interesting thing is, my lack of forgiveness may not cause them suffering at all, but it definitely causes my own suffering. Have you noticed that? Holding something, resentment over someone's head who you might not even talk to anymore. Do they know you're holding it over their head? Or is it just something you're clinging to in your body? I'm not saying you shouldn't or that you have to change anything, but it's interesting to think about. It's interesting. And when I bring up this topic, a lot of people do say, I'm never going to forgive these people. And I'm not saying you have to, but I will recognize the power forgiveness has revealed in my own life and what I've heard other people share through their own stories. One place I have heard this is Chris Beat Cancer on YouTube. So many stories of people saying forgiveness was part of their healing their body from disease. It wasn't the only thing, but it was part of it. And they all said that. And I said, wow, okay, I need to do this. I had never forgiven anyone before. Not a person. Not the kid who hit me in second grade. Like, no one. I was like, I'll remember it forever. I remember you. You did me wrong in fourth grade, bro. Okay. What did that do for me? It made me bitter. And guess what? I didn't mind. I said, I'll walk around bitter for the rest of my life. Very bitter at men, I will add. I was very bitter at men because I had experienced sexual assault. And that's wrong, obviously. That's atrocious, obviously. But I was harming myself with my bitterness and my resentment. I was holding it in my body, letting the whole world know how angry I was. And I had every right to be. But did I want to die this way? I'm not saying I would have, but did I want to suffer this way? I would have until I started experiencing symptoms. And I was like, okay, things have taken a turn. I couldn't have made that connection until I listened to those videos on Chris Beat Cancer. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. I think they're on to something here. So I learned how to forgive. And like I said, I had never done that before. The feeling was completely foreign to me. I didn't even know what to do. So I just played around and sat with it and figured it out. And it took a while and it was scary. It was vulnerable. It feels vulnerable, doesn't it, to forgive? I used to feel like, and sometimes still can, because I'm a work in progress and there's people to forgive all the time. Ourselves included. I always felt like, and tell me if you can relate, forgiveness was weakness. It was losing the fight. It was letting people steamroll over you. It was a loss. It's the complete opposite. It's an active decision. It takes courage. It takes strength. It takes doing it again and again. It takes being strong. It's not passive. It's active. It's strength with softness. It's strength with softness. It's releasing. It's light. It's freedom. It's dropping the heaviness you've been carrying. It's letting go of that resistance, letting go of the clenching your fist and gripping on for dear life. It's a freedom. It's a lightening of the load. It's allowing flow into the body in a new way. That's how it felt to me and feels to me, because I forgive. I have to actively forgive all the time. And sometimes I have to forgive things I already forgave because it comes up again in my head and I go, hey, why'd you do that to me? And I go, and it is kind of like riding a bike. Once you can do it, you know what it feels like. It just takes choosing to do it, getting back on that bike. It's beautiful. I felt the freedom. And when I actually forgave, I felt pain leave my body. I feel like it moved down my arms from my chest and out of my fingertips. That's what it felt like. It was nearly an immediate release. It was beautiful. It was life-changing. It was scary because I chose to forgive people who really wronged me and who I was told I never needed to forgive. And I felt like I was letting them win the battle, but really I was letting me win because I was giving freedom to myself. And that's why I want to share this, because I feel like it's a missing link that we don't always hear about and that we're even encouraged not to do. And once again, I'm not telling you to do this. I had to work years to get to the place where I was even capable of forgiving men who had assaulted me. I went to art therapy and I did healing, right? To get to a place where I could say, okay, I can release this. And I released it. It doesn't mean I forget. Forgiveness is not forgetting. It's not saying I'm okay with this. It's not saying I want to be best friends with you or even see you. But I forgive. I forgive you. I forgive you for that act, whatever it may be. And I was reminded of this the other day because I was watching a video on YouTube. And if you don't know the comedian Miss Pat, have you heard of her? Hilarious woman. She was being interviewed by these two gals and Raven Simone and her partner. And she brought up forgiveness. She said she asked God when she was a child what she needed to do and she needed to forgive. I'll play the clip.
Let me back up. So when I was a kid and when I got older, I had this lump in my chest. And I go to God and I say, why I feel so heavy other than being regular fat? And
Not
I knew,
regular fat.
I knew it was pressure on me. Mm-hmm. And so I went to sleep and I woke up and I had a dream. And God said, you got to forgive the people who hurt you. Mm-hmm. And the two people that hurt me was my mama, because she never protected us and she let men touch us. And one of the men was her boyfriend. And I can still remember my sister going up the hill with this older man and he paying my mama for my sister. I remember every fucking thing. And my kid's father, who was 22 and I was 12. I prayed and I forgave them. And I did it because I could live. Because when you hate something or somebody, that hate will control you. I say this all the time. I can laugh now. All the way to the bank because I'm a fucking comedian.
That part.
Think about this. And I'm not saying that this happened to me so I can have a sitcom, but I went through so much in life. And I always say, why me? But I'm 52 and I know why me. Because God chose me to be able to talk freely about it. Because so many people been through what I've been through and won't speak on it.
So isn't that interesting? She said there was a lump in her chest. She was heavy. And not because she was fat, she says. And it's not to say she literally had a lump. Maybe it was just a feeling. Maybe it would later turn into a literal lump. Maybe there was one there. Does it matter? She freed herself. She released the pain. She released the heaviness through forgiveness, even people who really wronged her. It's phenomenal. It's beautiful. That is freedom to me. That's one aspect of freedom. Letting yourself lighten the load. And I know we want to cling to it because we're like, they shouldn't have done that. And that's true. And we need to grieve. We do need to grieve some things we experienced. But if and when we're ready, Forgiveness is available to us, and it can do so much for us. It can heal the body, mind, and soul. It can free us. It is powerful. It can be medicine in our lives. It's available to us whenever we want, again and again and again, and it can change a life. I've lived it. So many people have lived it, and I needed to highlight this today in case this is something you're looking for. This is a medicine you're looking for in your life. You know, I wish you well. I really do. And it's a beautiful ride. It's not always easy, but there's strength in these choices. And it's, beautiful.